Welcome to the J-Glow and Emerson Learn to Read website. Spelling. Teach spelling as soon as you start teaching reading. If you're teaching sounds, what sound does this shape make? S. Also have your students spell those sounds. Spell the sound S. Spell the sound B. When you're teaching blends, practice spelling the blends. How do you spell bruh? How do you spell cruh? When you're teaching spelling, be sure that you're only testing your child, expecting your student to know what you've already learned. So if there's a word like said, which is a sight word, make sure that you've taught that and practiced it. When you're dealing with sight words that you can't sound out like said, then you want to have your student make sure they make a picture of the word in their mind so they can see the word S-A-I-D, said. That's how they're going to remember how to spell that word. But only take the time to work on words that are really common. It's not worth it to work on words that they're hardly ever going to use. If you're looking at their spelling in the writing that they're doing, only correct the words that are very common, and only correct 1 or 2 words. Our short-term memory can't hold that much, so if you correct 10 words, they're not going to remember any of them. However, if you correct 1 or 2 words and have them practice, they're much more likely to put that into long-term memory, especially if you practice over and over again. And when you're checking on their spelling, don't expect them to spell correctly when there's more than one way to spell a particular word. For example, the word rain could be spelled R-A-N-E. The E would make the A say its name, and that would literally spell rain. Now, we all know book spelling rain is R-A-I-N. And the way most people know that is that we've read the word rain so many times, it just looks right. So as you're teaching reading, don't expect your students right away to be able to spell rain correctly. Now, if you're teaching spelling on the double vowels, A-I, then give them that hint. A-I is saying A in the following words. And then read them words like rain and pain. If you're going to correct spelling and tell them that R-A-N-E isn't right, give them kudos for saying, yep, that does spell rain. That's perfectly readable. Book spelling is this way. But don't make a big deal of it if you correct it, because the more you correct, the less your student is going to remember, the less is going to go into their long-term memory. So you want to make sure you're only working on 1 or 2 things at a time so they can practice it and put it into long-term memory. Now, a word like mice, on the other hand, there has to be an E after the C to make the C say S. Now, if your student has learned that, then you can expect them to make sure that there's an E after the C. If your student hasn't learned that, either it's a good time to teach it or don't worry about it yet. So make sure you're not overwhelming your students by trying to correct too many things at a time, even though we all like nice spelling. So for spelling, that's the kind of key. You want to teach it as you're going. We've put some spelling lists and some hints on this page to help you along the way. Thanks for watching the J-Glow and Emerson Learn to Read website. Wow, was that sucky.